welcome back to the weekly news roundup. This is the Privacy and the Security Edition. These are recorded live Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you'd like to catch the show live, switchedtolinux.com/live always has the latest links as to which one of the multiple different places we are streaming to in case, we get kicked off the tubies or something for preaching more truth or, doing a tutorial on how to use a software package that's actually available on the Google Play Store. Both of those have happened. So with that, though, guys, we do also have a new Matrix community. If you'd like to join us on over there, if you cannot find it in the public directory, then head on over to the website, switchedtolinux.com. Go to the very bottom, and down there at the very bottom, you will find the social media section. You will find the direct link to the Matrix community down there. With that, let's go ahead and get diving right on into the news. First up is a major app flaw exposed the data of millions of Indian students. So this kind of ties into one of the tinfoil hat times I'm doing right now, and so this is going to appear over there as well. We'll mention it again, but basically, especially when everyone went into the kufis and India's like, everyone has to stay home. They mandated, with no exceptions, every student in the country had to use one specific app, both teachers and students across the entire country for over a year. And lo and behold, it was on. It was not on an S3 calendar. It was actually on Microsoft Azure. But just like the S3 calendars, where people do not understand how to secure those buckets, what they actually do is, the Microsoft Azure has the exact same problems. So what happened is some, third-party contractor who is probably just, gave him the cheapest overall bid for the contract, did not secure the database, ended up that all these databases were ended up indexed on Google. It got so bad. Public education app launched in 2017, but during the COVID-19 pandemic, everybody was mandated to use it as all schooling went online. And so with that, the files were stored on an unsecured server containing full names, phone numbers, email addresses of 1 million teachers, according to the data files verified by Wired. The teachers worked for hundreds of thousands of schools located in every state in India. Another file mentioned about 600,000 students. Students' email addresses and phone numbers were partially obscured. The data included the student's full name, information about where they went to school, and when they enrolled in a course to the app, and now how much of the course they had completed. So this is a common thread that we're seeing in a lot of things. Modern day education is forcing too many apps, and we have to have these questions about what can we do about it. Are we forced into using all of these apps, or are we actually have the ability to say, you know what, I do not agree to the terms of service, yet I'm paying for an education. Can you come up with a way that we can have this? And I mean, this is an interesting one. When I was a college professor, we had I think we had it in one school. Everybody was on master in chemistry at one point in time. And of course the students would have to buy the license, and then of course they'd have to agree to the terms of service, and it was mandated for the course. So basically they're saying if you want to pay to go to school, you are mandating to use some third-party company. And then of course later in my life, I worked for one of those ed tech companies. It wasn't master in chemistry, but it was one of the competitors. And I literally had access to every K through 12 student in the country's information, every bit of information about that student that our company had. And I didn't even work in K through 12. I only worked in the college level, but I had every K through 12 student in America's information that was collected inside of those apps. This is how dangerous these things are. And it starts to raise a question. Do we need to start raising more issues and thoughts and concerns and saying maybe we should not be forcing students into all of these tech ed companies, because this is the type of stuff that invariably happens. And then who's responsible? Who can clean this mess up? And this is why, and honestly, as a former college professor, I will tell you this. Every one of the online homework systems is absolutely poor at teaching your students how to do stuff. You know what it is? It is laziness, and it's contributing to laziness and poor education, because the student does all the online stuff, and where I would teach them how to do your chemistry problems in this full broad, show your work, very structured, very organized. And if you followed that pattern, you would learn a lot. But with all these online systems, they're only concerned with that final answer. And so they have chicken scratch to get what they think is the right answer. They plug it in. And then, of course, the system automatically grades them. And I just need to download the stuff and put it on my gradebook. Oh, it's a big time saver for the professor. It certainly is. But it completely destroys the education of the student. And this is why, sure, this is convenient. But as we convert our schools from places of higher learning to cattles to push out sheepskin degrees, we need to stop and recognize that pushing every student into tech ed software is not an appropriate thing to do. All right, rant over on that one. TikTok. TikTok CEO is told to step up efforts to comply with digital laws. And they said, ha ha ha, yeah, right, ha ha ha. But anyway, this is over in the EU. The EU Commissioner Thierry Breton, EU Digital Policy Chief, explicitly conveyed to TikTok CEO Xiao Zhiqiu that the company must step up efforts to comply with the European Union's rules on copyright, data protection, and the Digital Services Act. And then the Chinese boardroom had a good laugh in the boardroom, saying, no, we not do that. So it goes on, the EU regulations setting out an unprecedented new standard for accountability of online platforms regarding illegal and harmful content. Basically, they're getting mad that TikTok is not following through with all of their rules and their policies. And the reality is this is why we need to really question this. Obviously, if I had kids, I would not let them anywhere near TikTok or most social media for that matter, because it's frankly a lot more dangerous and toxic than you can possibly imagine. And they very clearly do not care to follow the rules and the laws. And frankly, as tied as ByteDance, the owner of TikTok, is to the Chinese government, I have a sneaky suspicion that any amount of fines that the EU is going to throw at them, the Chinese government is going to be like, yeah, sure, here, have some more money. We control all their debt anyway. Well, sure. Okay, we'll just jack up their interest rate and make them pay for their own fines. Sure. I think that's what we're going to start to see. This was an interesting little piece from The Guardian coming in response to a lot of people on TikTok and other social media, mostly your film-based ones, going out and filming strangers in public. In some instances, it's filming them in public from afar as they do funky dances or other weird stuff. I mean, I remember some situations where, man, I wish I had a camera on people. I remember this one time I worked at Burger King, one of my first jobs in high school, working at Burger King, and I'm out there on break with another guy, and we're sitting there back. We got our cheeseburgers, and we're sitting on the hood of my car. I had this giant Caprice Classic land yacht, right? We're both sitting on the hood of my car eating our cheeseburgers, and this lady zooms right on in, shows kind of does this slide abandoned ship into the handicap parking spot. And my friend looks at me and says, is that lady even handicapped? And she opens up the door, goes to get out and forgets a seatbelt. Boom. We're like, yep, she's handicapped right in the brain. I kind of wish I had that on film. That would have been great. But the reality is, a lot of people, with everyone carrying cameras with them at all times, it's so easy to film everybody. But there's also cases where people are being filmed. You'll go up and engage in pranks. It's one thing if you're just recording somebody who's just doing something and whatever else. Maybe you put it on social media. Maybe you just have it privately to laugh at it. But then what happens is some people will actually engage in pranks. And I think, frankly, if you try and do some YouTube prank on somebody and they kick your butt, I think that you should be found completely guilty, and everything that you get, if you get the snot beaten out of you because you pulled a prank on someone, I think the legal system should be like, you know what? You engaged in a YouTube prank for clicks and somebody didn't like it and kicked your butt. Maybe that's on you. I don't know. But the piece was really good. It's down there in the article links, so you can read through the whole thing. But they're talking about the 64-year-old retired man who was filmed at a nightclub doing some crazy dance, and then it was posted online and went viral, apparently, and people talking about the geriatric dance or something. And it raises this question, should we be running around filming everybody to put on social media? Now, on the one hand, as far as a legal perspective, most of the time when you're in public, there's really no instance in most places that suggests that if you're in a public place, you should expect any form of privacy. But on the other hand, I think it's common decency to not film somebody without them knowing about it and putting it up online, because you could actually cross into an interesting line, and this would be one for the lawmakers to debate. But if you are, for example, using a photo, in fact, I know this from web design stuff, if you're using a photo of somebody that you snapped online, you actually do have to get their permission. And so if you happen to put a video up of some other person and it goes viral and somebody is making profit off of that, you could literally sue them for using your images. You could actually get every bit of money back, plus you could get extra damages, plus you could get extra costs of using somebody's image and likeness without it. And it would be interesting if we start seeing people unwittingly involved in social media pranks like this, starting to sue people and winning. And it would be really interesting to see if that curbs this idea of filming people in public and putting them up on social media. Just an interesting thought. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And this one was a great article. I love this one because it's really showing us that the cool facade of IoT is really starting to fade away as people have purchased these appliances like, oh, this is really cool. I could put my refrigerator on the internet and then it can tell me if I'm out of eggs or something. And they'd be like, I know, refrigerator, I'm out of eggs. I just, haven't won the lottery lately, so I can't buy any. But what they're finding, and what many of the smart appliance makers are complaining about right now, is most people are not actually putting their Wi-Fi devices on the internet. I wonder if part of this is it's so hard to find one without this crap and be like, fine, I'll take this stupid one and just never hook it up. Like my mother just recently bought a stove. Was it the stove or was it the refrigerator? It was one of those two. One of those two is either the stove or the refrigerator. Now you have to understand that my mother does not know how to use a computer. Okay, if my brother's watching today, he can completely confirm. Like, every time I go over there, it's like, I can't access how do you delete an email? Like, you highlight it and push the delete key, okay? I don't think her computer's been on in years because she just doesn't know how to turn it on anymore. And so she doesn't know anything about this kind of stuff, nor does she want to. She goes, I think it was the refrigerator dies down. It was one of those two appliances. And she goes into the appliance, I think Lowe's, probably. She won't go in Home Depot, so I'm pretty sure it was Lowe's. And she says, I'm looking for a new refrigerator. In fact, it was the refrigerator. I'm looking for a new refrigerator. I want it to keep food cold. I do not want anything else. Oh, we have this nice model over here. It's got an ice maker. Excuse me, are you brain dead? I don't want anything in it. This one can connect to the internet and it can help you with your shopping list. I want a refrigerator that does nothing but keeps food cold. So I wonder if part of this trend is people just can't buy the stuff without all these stupid, completely unnecessary spyware built into it. And so they're just like, I'm not setting this crap up. Plug it in, it keeps food cold, whatever. But what they're saying is that when people first bought them, they were, hooking them up quite a bit. But after time, they fell off the internet. And some of it is, did people get a new router and, reconnecting your refrigerator to your Wi-Fi is not exactly high priority? Or did they actually get in here and start looking and going, what type of information are they actually selling? Because at one point in time, it says down here that particularly the refrigerators connected to the internet that have water filters, they were making about, what was it? There was an exact number. It was a significant amount more water filters on the smart refrigerators that are connected versus the people who had filters without. Like, I have an RO system, not in here in the van, but I have an RO system at the house when I have a house. And I do not replace that filter every 6 months when they say. I replace the filter when regular water tests tell me it's no longer filtering water. All right. And of course, in that, there's 5 different stages involved in that. And so there's a couple different things to look for and to test for as you're looking at what's going on. But I'm not replacing the filters just because the manufacturer said it's time to replace the filters. I'm actually going to do water tests to say, hey, it's a water filter. I know what parts per million particles I should have in my water. When I exceed that threshold, then I'll replace the filter. Thank you. But what they're saying is there are smart refrigerators connected that have the water filters attached to them. They were basically telling people, hey, it's time to replace the filter, and then annoying them constantly until they did it. And so what happened is a lot of people started disconnecting it because they were concerned about the data being sent. They were concerned about the fact they were replacing filters and other replaceable parts infinitely more when the device was connected versus not. And so I think what we're starting to see is that people are not as willing anymore to purchase internet-connected home appliances as much as they were in the past. So that was a very interesting take to see what was going on in there. Well, if you'd like to help support the channel, we do have affiliates. Actually, today we are highlighting our shop, though. You can get some merch like this hat or my cool coffee cup here. We have a variety of different Switch to Linux designs over here, although we need to add a few more over here. We have some some baby onesies. I actually have this hoodie is a very nice hoodie there. We have t-shirts, mouse pads, coffee cups, all sorts of fun stuff like that. So you can head on over here. You can explore. If you look at like bandanas, pillows, aprons, cups, hats, just all sorts of stuff over here. And then you can search for different categories. So head on over there, shop.switchedtolinux.com. Well, let's head on over to security next. And first up in security, GoTo revealed that actors stole customers' backups and encryption keys for some of them. So GoTo, they had customer backups, they had encryption keys, and people stole all that. GoTo. LogMain. LastPass. Yeah, this is the parent company behind LastPass. So in November of 2022, right in the middle of being breached from the whole LastPass breach, the same company also had backup data and encryption keys for that backup data stolen. Interesting. Now, I think this had to do more with like cloud backup services. I believe that's what GoTo is. It's like a cloud backup company. So not only did you have your backup services breached, stolen, and the encryption keys, but also your passwords all managed by the same amazing, definite military-grade encryption security company. Go to them if you happen to want to be hacked, breached, and lose all your data. Just a reminder, if you are using LastPass or GoTo, change services and then change every single password in your password manager, as annoying that is, because hackers stole your vault. Next up, MailChimp. Another one we are actually doing, another tinfoil hat time is in the works about the parent company, which is Intuit. I didn't even know Intuit bought MailChimp, but apparently they did last year. Maybe this is right about the time they pushed out the new woke terms of service that basically said, yeah, if you're sending out newsletters for things that we think is wrong, we can just terminate your account. Yeah, MailChimp actually added that into their terms of service last year, right about the time Intuit was apparently buying it. And they had yet another breach. Just a reminder that Intuit as a company takes all of the data that it finds about all of the connected accounts and it uses it to supplement every other product you're using, with the sole exception of TurboTax. Allegedly, they do not combine the data from that. But if you have a QuickBooks account and you have a MailChimp account, they combine all that data together. And then they actually have a number of other companies they work with. I think it's either Credit Karma or one of the other credit score type companies. They own one of those. Again, they're implementing all this data. So MailChimp experiences a data breach, and it makes you wonder what else they got. But it was not all of them. It was only 133 accounts. Unfortunately, one of them was their biggest customer, WooCommerce. So anybody that uses or has a WooCommerce account, because WooCommerce, if once you sign up an account with them, it automatically, without your consent, hands all that data over to MailChimp. Now, if you happen to have a WooCommerce account at all, you are probably scooped up inside of this because the hackers stole WooCommerce database connected to MailChimp. So this is just something to keep in mind. So anyone out there that does anything with WooCommerce, you are caught up in this MailChimp breach. Isn't that exciting? This is a neat new hack. I had not seen this one before. The odd phishing scam targets victims with a blank image. Well, the new SVG images going around that are attached to things, you can embed all sorts of cool stuff like JavaScript inside of them. And what's happening on this one is they're sending you an email with an HTML page. The HTML page passes virus scanners because it only contains a blank SVG image. But when you open the blank SVG image, it actually executes JavaScript, and then it will send over your computer to download a bunch of other type of side-loading malware. So all sorts of stuff. Just be aware anytime you get an HTML file inside of your email, it might be involved in this individual type of breach. In this case, e-signature platform DocuSign is the targeted host. Scammers sending out seemingly legitimate DocuSign emails containing an HTML attachment that, when opens, appears what appears to be a blank image. Okay, the catch, though, is that JavaScript is found embedded within the image that leads users to a malicious URL in a method rarely seen until now. For this reason, many security services, I think that's supposed to be many security services, will typically fail to detect the threat. DocuSign is trusted by many businesses, so it's hard to believe that it could now be scamming employees, consumers. However, we have reported several cases of scamming on the platform. So beware of blank image HTML files inside of your email attachments. And if you're using DocuSign, pay very special attention to this particular breach. This is another one. This is one of the rare cases where my hated thing, DNS over HTTPS, which I've talked about many times on this channel as being a really bad thing. This is one instance where DNS over HTTPS is going to keep you safe. So what this is this is a malware on an Android app. You get the malicious Android app, and then what it does is it goes up to whatever wireless network your phone is connected to, and then it breaches the modem, or the router, excuse me. It breaches the router, and then what it does when it gets into the router is it changes the DNS system, because nearly every router you can get in there and set custom DNS. So it will change the custom DNS on the router, and with the custom DNS set up on the router, then it's going to send you to malicious sites. So while you're going to google.com, for example, it's going to send you to a malicious IP address. Because remember what happens with DNS is DNS as a service. What DNS is going to do is it's an address book. So you type in whatever the URL is, and this sends you to a malicious copy instead of whatever it really is. If you have DNS over HTTPS enabled in your device, it's going to bypass this. So you will not be susceptible to that in that instance. However, DNS over HTTPS has many other problems that it's not worth running just to get around this. However, just be aware, this is going to work by breaching various routers by using common credentials or some other means to try and get into whatever those routers are. So if your router is well secured, you're going to be in good shape as well. Additionally, although I think you could probably get around it with that. If you're using something like a Pi-hole, the router might bypass your Pi-hole, so be aware of that as well. So here's your, I guess it's an SMS phishing attack, or some other device is getting in there, and the Android device is going to go back. Let's see. I think this is going to be your target on this side. So it's going to get in here, get your landing page, compromise your router, and then your router is going to reset to the rogue DNS and then start sending you to malicious websites. So that is kind of how this one's going to work. It's very interesting. And on to our last one, another WordPress breach, of course, 75,000 WordPress sites. I actually had a client using this plugin, so he had to do an emergency patch of their site this week. One of the reasons I like doing the security news, keep up on all these WordPress sites for my clients. I generally know what the breaches are before the regular world does. So this one happens to be anything running LearnPress, which is the LMS plugin for WordPress. If you have any WordPress websites using LearnPress, you need to make sure that you patch it. The current WordPress versions it will mitigate this bug. But according to right now, let's see, issues were fixed December 20th. So we actually probably had that patch then. We've had a patch since then. Version 4.2.0 is going to be safe, but only 25% of WordPress sites running LearnPress actually have that. So 75% of them are actually going to be malicious. Here's WordPress versions. So there's these are wicked old, this is getting pretty old, and this is the good one. So that's the thing. So the vulnerability, unauthenticated local file inclusion. This is going to enable a SQL injection, which is going to do all sorts of nasty stuff to your WordPress database. So if you are running any LearnPress sites, make sure that you have all security patches up to 4.2.0. So that's exciting. Well, if you'd like to help support the channel, we do have a Patreon page, patreon.com/TOMM. That's going to cover all of my different channels. You can jump on in over there. I'll give you the link to the supporter stream, anything else I do. Like I'll usually put up the essays and such for the tinfoil hat times, and also the videos before those go live as well. Those are some of the things that we have inside of there. With that, guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.